So hi everyone, I'm Annick, I'm the founder of Immaculate Vegan, and today I am delighted to be speaking to Toni Vernelli, who is the International Head of Communications and Marketing at Veganuary.
Hello.
I'm pretty sure, hi Toni. So I'm pretty sure everyone watching will have heard of Veganuary. I think you'd have to be living under a rock not to have heard of it. Obviously, this is the time of the year when, thanks to Veganuary, veganism really does take centre stage. They've actually been going since 2014. And since then, they've been growing year on year. I think you're looking at close to 2 million participants at the end of this month. Is that right, Toni?
Well, we've actually just hit 2 million participants since we started. So that's the total. Since
Amazing.
We began in 2014, we've passed 2 million participants now, which is pretty incredible.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have a few more after this.
Definitely.
But obviously, yeah, really growing year on year. But I think this year's campaign looks amazing. So I'd really like to find out more about this year's campaign as well, and also how everyone can get involved. But Toni, I'd love to start by just finding out a bit more about your vegan journey, because really interestingly, you know, from my perspective, you've been vegan for 30 years, which is longer than most people I know. Veganism must have changed so much in that time. Can you just tell us a bit about, you know, what was your journey? How did you become vegan? Why did you decide to become vegan? And what has it been like in the last 30 years? How has it transformed?
Yeah, I mean, it has changed. I mean, it's unrecognizable, really. Yeah, I mean, I guess it really started when I was a small child, not to bore everyone to death, but my dad was a butcher. So grew up,
Wow.
You know, with the animal carcasses around that and never really questioned it until I was about 7 or 8. And we went to a farm and we met, you know, cows, pigs, sheep, living ones. And of course, as a child, I loved them, you know, I loved animals. And I absolutely was horrified when, you know, I made that realization in my mind that these were the same animals that were in the butcher shop. And I said to my parents at the time, I don't want to eat animals, you know, I love animals. But obviously at that age, you can't really control what you eat. And so, you know, that just carried on. But when I was a teenager, I did a course at secondary school, and we had to do like a meal plan for a vegetarian for a week, you know, to make sure they could get all of their nutrients. And we had vegetarian cookbooks we could look at and nutrition charts. And I just went, oh my God, I don't need to eat animals. And that was it. You know, I gave up meat straight away. And couple years later, I was in a punk record shop in Toronto, Canada, because I'm from Canada, and I picked up a PETA magazine, and that was it. You know, I learned about animal rights and all the rest of animal suffering, and I went vegan and became an animal rights activist, and that's kind of history.
Wow, and you've never looked back?
Never looked back, not at all, no.
And I mean, how in your perspective has it changed over 30 years? Because obviously, you know, it has gone from being incredibly niche then, relatively niche then, to almost, you know, becoming mainstream, you know, in some way.
Oh, definitely.
What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, back then you could get soya milk, but it was primarily like the Chinese version, you know, because it wasn't like the popular brand. So you could get it in normal shops, but it was Chinese soy milk. So it was very bland tasting, but it worked in cereal and things like that. You could get like bean burgers, but you couldn't get anything that was meaty. And you could get like soya chunks and the dried soya mince that you had to soak in water. But yeah, certainly it was
not many options. So did you just have to pretty much cook from scratch all the time? Was it?
Yeah, a lot of scratch cooking, a lot of lentils, a lot of tofu. Yeah, and then I remember very clearly when you could start getting, I moved to Vancouver, and about a year after I moved there, Starbucks introduced soya milk, and that was like revolutionary. You could actually go out and have, so I had just started drinking black coffee, you know, that was the only option, but suddenly you could go out and have a latte, and that just seemed like the world had changed. And of course now you can have soya, oat, rice, almonds. I mean,
oh my God, I mean, yeah, anything, like the choices are amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I remember the first like fake meat burger I had that I actually made the waiter go and check that they hadn't given me a real burger. You know, it was just like, no, this can't be fake. And then of course now you have something like the Beyond Burger that is just genuinely so much like meat. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think particularly in meat, right? The alternatives now are so realistic. I think who even love the taste of meat it's really not a sacrifice at all.
Yeah, I mean, people with the Greg sausage roll, I mean, a lot of people who aren't vegetarian who say, I actually prefer the vegan sausage roll.
Yeah, my partner's the same. I mean,
Yeah.
He loves a sort of proper sausage roll, but yeah, that's delicious, isn't it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Veganuary. So because obviously you're in full swing. I mean, I know you are really, really busy right now running the campaign. Can you tell us a bit about, well, let's start, firstly with how Veganuary came to be. So, it launched several years ago. Tell us what was the thinking behind it? Why did it launch? And
Yeah. Well, our founders, Matthew and Jane, they're a married couple, and they were, again, really animal activists, and they were supporting lots of different animal charities and doing all sorts of different vegan outreach. And they just thought, there's a lot of groups out there that are giving people the information on why they should go vegan, groups exposing the horrors of factory farming and slaughterhouses, and groups working on environmental issues. But there's not really an organization that's just dedicated to helping people who want to try vegan. So they thought, well, that could be us. That's a niche there. And the Veganuary pledge idea really came from Dry January, this idea that it's a time when people want to make changes to their life, positive changes. We know from human behavior research that asking people to just change for 1 month is much more realistic than asking them to change, overnight for the rest of their life. For most people, that's a really daunting prospect. So the idea of just trying it for a month and see how you get on, challenge yourself to do this for 1 month. So they took inspiration from Dry January, came up with the brilliant name Veganuary, which, really does catch people's attention. Sometimes simply because they can't pronounce it, so they want to find out what it is. And the first year they ran the pledge, they did it themselves, on the kitchen table, and they thought, well, we'll be really thrilled if 1,000 people sign up. And 3,000 people signed up. And then the next year, it doubled, over 6,000 people signed up, and it really just hit the zeitgeist. And I remember maybe like 2018, I was working for a different animal charity, and I saw Veganuary mentioned in like the cartoon in The Guardian. And I messaged Matthew and Jane, and I was like, you've hit pop culture.
Yeah. And now, of course, I mean, it's everywhere, right? You've got all the supermarkets bringing out their Veganuary ranges. You've got restaurants doing Veganuary. Yeah. You've got loads of corporates doing Veganuary. I mean, it's amazing. It really has become a mainstream thing now, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's really unusual if I talk to someone around this time of year and mention I work for Veganuary, that they don't say, oh my God, I'm doing Veganuary, or I've done Veganuary. It really is just now part of the culture, and it's something that people do, and way more people do it than officially sign up with us. We're really only catching a small proportion of the people who are going vegan for January.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I did have a question for you around that. So if you are vegan already, can you still do Veganuary? Should we sign up to do Veganuary to show support for the campaign?
Yeah, it's partly to show support, but also you get loads of free stuff that's really worth signing up for. Like every year we produce a new celebrity cookbook. It's got about 25 recipes in it. We have 10 different meal plans that come through the course of the month-long pledge. Again, all with recipe inspiration. Every day you get an email with several recipes in it, and nutritional info, which I think is always good to brush up on, information about the health benefits, environmental impact. So it's good educational resources as well. So for those tricky arguments you sometimes still have to have, it gives you a lot of the information that would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And we've just gone, wait a second, I just realized I've got low battery, I need to plug this in. Okay, we're good to go. I mean, there is loads of amazing stuff. I mean, I've been vegan for a few years, but I still sign up, and I still, I love the cookbook. I love the meal plans. I think also a lot of the information is really useful, even if you are vegan or you're vegetarian, just for when you get those questions, right? About, how good or bad is veganism to the environment, or, what are good sources of protein. And it's just good to have some of those sources to hand as well. So I personally find them really useful. So obviously signing up is one way to kind of get involved and show support. What else can people do to get involved? Well, share. What do you want people to do?
Yes, follow us on social media and share our stuff and encourage other people to sign up. And also go out and try all the new vegan products that are being brought out in January, because we need to show businesses, that there is this demand for these products. And
Yeah.
if there is a lot of demand, then they'll keep the products on their menus and in the shops afterwards. So they tend to really push a lot out in January. And then the ones that stick are the ones that have had obviously the best sales. So if there's something that you really love and you're really excited about, you know, make sure you go out and support it in January as well, so that it sticks around.
Definitely so important. And I think also if you're going out and, you know, you're eating out and maybe somebody hasn't got a menu for Veganuary, why not ask them? Because actually, the more, I think the more restaurants and cafes and places hear people asking about it, if they're not doing something already, they might think about, maybe I need to do something in future, right? So
definitely,
maybe I need to cater to those people that do want to try vegan.
It's so true. And there will undoubtedly have been internal conversations about it. You know, certainly in the UK, businesses are very aware, and there will be someone working there who's very pro Veganuary, but you know, they need to know that the customers are on their side as well.
They need that support, exactly.
Definitely.
So for people who might be a bit daunted by the whole idea of Veganuary, or you know, thinking, oh, it's going to be quite hard, or maybe they're finding it hard, what would be your kind of top tips? What things will help people get through Veganuary, as well as obviously, you know, checking out all your resources?
Yes. Well, there's a few top tips that we really do advocate. The first one is to be kind to yourself, and don't let perfection be the enemy of the good. You know, it's impossible to be perfect in an imperfect world. And we know for many people, that's kind of the biggest hurdle they face, is this idea that if I can't do it perfectly, then there's no point in doing it at all. And that's absolutely not true. You know, it's much better that someone be 90% vegan than 0% vegan. So do the best that you can and approach every new day, you know, as a new start. If you give in to temptation, or you eat something that's not vegan accidentally, chalk it up to experience and carry on. Don't let it derail you. So that's the golden rule of Veganuary.
Yeah, I completely agree with that one.
And then we always say, take it slow. So start with the foods that you love and just veganize them. You know, don't revolutionize your diet and go from having granola in the morning to suddenly having a kale smoothie. Like, it's going to be too much of a change. So just have your granola with plant milk instead. You know, if you like sausage and mash for dinner, just make vegan sausages and vegan mash to start with. And then once you feel comfortable with those changes, then branch out, because there are so many exciting flavors and textures and ingredients out there that you can try. But make that sort of, once you're already comfortable with the initial changes. And then I think another really key one is not to try one type of a product and write them all off. So, you know, people will often say, oh, I tried soy milk once and it was disgusting, so, you know, I'm never drinking another plant milk. But there's, you know, soya, oat, almond, rice, coconut all behave differently. There's sweetened, there's unsweetened, there's versions designed specifically for coffee, you know, so keep experimenting. And the same goes for sausages, burgers, you know, mince. There's so many different types out there, some that taste really meaty, some that don't, you know, just have a lot of nice flavors to them. So there's bound to be something out there that you like. So don't give up just because you had one bad experience. And then lastly, for eating out, because we know this is still one of the challenges people face, download the Happy Cow app. Because I love the Happy Cow. It's amazing. I mean, no matter where you are in the world, you can find vegan food with that app. You know, I've been to all sorts of places where you think there's never going to be something vegan here, and you put it in your app and it's like, oh my God, there's a vegan restaurant in this village. I cannot believe it. But
Me too. It's so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, or there might just be a shop nearby that stocks soy milk. You know, like they will help you find it, even if it's obscure and tucked away.
Yeah, I think, well, look, loads and loads of great advice there. So, you know, hopefully everyone will have a really successful Veganuary. One thing I was really interested in this year's campaign is how much focus there's been on the climate change element. So previously, I mean, you know, obviously animal welfare is a huge reason why people want to try vegan, but the climate is a massive driver as well. Can you tell us a bit about that in terms of how did you come up with this year's campaign, and why is that so kind of center stage now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess largely it's because there's just been so much press and scientific literature in the last few years about the climate impact, that it's pretty much universally accepted now that we have to cut back on our meat and dairy consumption, that our current consumption patterns are not sustainable. And with COP26 happening in November, that really brought it all into focus. And, you know, again, the media was just full of stories about how important it is that we cut back. And yet nothing was discussed at COP. You know, it was,
I know, that was shocking, wasn't it? It was
ignored.
like, yeah, it was bizarre. One of the most powerful things we can do, and certainly that we can do as individuals, to make a real difference. And it was, barely got any attention.
Yeah. So we felt it was really important to remind people that you don't need to wait for government on this one. You know, we don't need our leaders to lead on this one. We can all make this change ourselves and start taking climate action into our own hands, which was one of our slogans for this year, and make those changes every day. And and show our leaders what needs to be done.
And have you found that's been resonating with people, that messaging?
Absolutely. I mean, we were already seeing an increase in the percentage of people doing it for environmental reasons. So because we ask people this when they sign up, and in 2019 12% of people said the environment was their main reason. In 2020 18% said it was their main reason, and in 2021 21% said it was their main reason. So we'd already seen quite a steady incline in that. It'll be interesting to see this year, you know, how much it's gone up. But certainly the more and more people I speak to, they talk about the environment as being their primary reason.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love your Bigfoot video as well. For anyone that hasn't seen it, go on to the Veganuary social profile or website and have a look and share it, because it's brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It's really fun.
So Toni, can we just end by talking a little bit about vegan fashion? Because fairly, I think most people come to veganism through food. You know, obviously we eat 3 meals every day, right? So that is the single biggest impact you can have. But veganism isn't just about food, because unfortunately animals are used and exploited, and our planet is harmed, you know, through other industries as well. And fashion is the next big one. Obviously very close to our heart, Immaculate Vegan. First of all, how have you seen vegan fashion change since you became vegan? And did you try to go for vegan fashion as soon as you became vegan, or was that something you brought in later?
Oh yeah, good questions. When I first gave up meat, I was about 15, and because I was a punk, I had so much leather clothes, you know, leather boots and skirts and jackets. And at the time, I really had that moral dilemma, like, should I still be wearing this, you know, now that I'm vegetarian? And for about a year or two, I thought, well, there's no point in throwing it away. I've got it all now. I'll just carry on wearing it. And then when I decided to go vegan, I thought, actually, I can't keep wearing this. You know, I don't feel comfortable myself wearing it. So I gave it away to friends and my younger sisters to make sure that it was, you know, really not going to waste. But then at that point, vegan fashion was challenging. I mean, God, you could only buy PVC. Exactly, like the cheapest shoes, you know, available were sometimes vegan, but mainly you had to be looking for canvas and, you know, alternative materials like that. And then I moved to the UK, and the big exciting thing was coming to Brighton for vegetarian shoes. You know, this was like revolutionary. There was a shop that did them, and ones that weren't going to fall apart, you know, after a week of wearing them. And so, you know, you had to make a trip down to Brighton to get your shoes. But you still couldn't get things like, you know, the fake leather jackets and things like that. And if you could, they were just really poor quality, you know, nothing that lasted. So it's just incredible now that you can get things that have that same feel as leather, that look beautiful and now actually last, you know, made from really sustainable products, you know, things that are around us, you know, things that we've been throwing away for so many years, like pineapple skins and stuff that are literally, you know, were considered just waste products before. I mean, it's incredible.
It is amazing, isn't it? And I think what we've also really seen is just the evolution of, I think materials have just, you know, been totally transformed, but also just the style as well. There's so many lovely vegan brands now that are actually really stylish, that look beautiful. And that's kind of their main reason. You know, they want to create beautiful looking items, they just want them to be cruelty free as well.
Yeah, it's so very true. Yes. Yeah, I mean, certainly I like to think myself as fashionable, and I have a vast shoe collection, and you know, it's just every day I see shoes that I'm like, oh my god, I love those. I have enough shoes, but you know, they're beautiful shoes.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? And what's even better is when you get complimented about them and you can say, oh, actually they're made of cactus leather, or they're, they're unisex, whatever. That's just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah,
do you have any favorite vegan fashion brands?
Oh god. Oh, that's a difficult question. I mean, I guess because I do still quite like big chunky footwear, I quite like Koi footwear, because they do a lot of really chunky trainers and chunky boots and that sort of thing. So that tends to be what catches my eye. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that around right now. I mean, we've got similarly, I think all the kind of shoe brands producing just lovely big chunky boots.
Yeah.
Combat boots.
Yeah, I love a combat boot. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. Well, listen, Toni, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you get back to running the marketing for Veganuary. But just before we go, can you just let everyone know where they can go and find out about Veganuary and sign up? So what's your website address? What are your social profiles?
Yeah, so our website's veganuary.com, really simple. The registration page, if you wanted to go straight there, it's veganuary.com/tryvegan with a hyphen between try and vegan. But you can get there from our website anyways. And then our social handles on most platforms, we are, apart from Instagram, where we are at @weareveganuary.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Best of luck with the campaign. I hope it goes brilliantly. I hope you, far surpass all your targets for sign-ups. And I hope everyone here is taking part and getting involved in some way as well. Thank you so much, and best of luck, Toni. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.